Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, and we're coming off of USC's season opener, a win in the Coliseum, 56-28 win over San José State. And because a game transpired on Saturday, that means I get to welcome in my co-host, Dion Bailey, former USC and NFL defender. Dion, I'm so excited to welcome you back, and I'm so excited to see your smiling face on video. I'm glad we actually have you on video this season.
Definitely excited to be back. It was a great experience last year going through the first season of the Victory Podcast, and the boys took us on a special ride, so I'm excited to be back for season 2, and hopefully this season can top last season.
And I was laughing setting up the video today because you put up with me showing up to recordings last year with just like my hair in a bun, no makeup and sweats. And I'm sure you're pretty surprised because I'm definitely dolled up today. And like, this is not how we podcasted at all last year. So it's definitely different.
Definitely different. Definitely not kicking it, suited and booted, ready to go this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely a change.
You always looked professional. I did not. So you always brought your A game. I will give you that.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's a long week. By Sunday for you.
Yeah.
Monday through Saturday, I'm sure is
a
pretty crazy week for you. So Sunday, hey, I give you no hard time relaxing and just being in your cool, calm, and collected clothes.
I appreciate it. Before we jump into it, how was your off season? How's it been?
It was great. You know, we're expecting our third and final child, which happens to be a girl. So we're excited about that. Definitely exciting. So that's really what my off season's been about. Really moving into my home and just preparing for the third child. So it's been a pretty good off season, but now we're back in season. So this is really the best time of year.
Are you excited to be a girl dad?
I am. You know, once we found out we was having our third child, I was hoping and praying it was gonna be a girl. I mean, to me, you know, everybody says you don't want three girls, but 3 boys did not sound like a good time to me. So I was hoping that we can bring a nice young lady into the bunch and calm these other two young gentlemen I have down. So hopefully that'll be the case.
You need some estrogen in your life too, not just your wife.
Man, definitely a lot too much testosterone in this house already.
Well, congrats to you and your wife, and obviously very happy to have you back this season. And if you caught it at the top, I said that we're the Victory Podcast driven by Audi. We announced it earlier this week, but we are now sponsored, which is so exciting. And Dion, I just need to thank you because obviously your contributions helped grow the show and helped gain us more listeners so that we could even have sponsors. So just wanted to give a special thank you to you too as well, Dion.
Thank you. And I've been Team Audi for like almost a decade now. So this is great.
It's really nice to have sponsors that you don't have to like kind of fake a smile for. It's like you're like you don't have to twist my arm. I will definitely rep the Victory Pod driven by Audi. Definitely. Speaking of, I just want to give a thanks to Audi. Performance is more exhilarating on a real road. Introducing the Audi Q5. Visit your SoCal Audi dealers, proud sponsors of the USC Trojans. And I also introduced this sponsor last episode. It's Symbiotica. Take your health to the next level with Symbiotica. They're premium, easy to take supplements. Fuel your body with key vitamins and minerals to help you reach peak performance on and off the field. Elevate your health today by going to Symbiotica.com and use the code FIGHTON for 15% off site-wide. So there you go. Got a couple ad reads out of the way so we can finally get to the meat and the potatoes of the show, Dion. USC came out victorious out of the Coliseum on Saturday, 56-28. I know we have a lot of thoughts, and before we jump into it, just want to be sure to say if you have any questions for Dion after games, be sure to look out for a tweet or an Instagram box on our socials, VictoryPod USC. That's how you can get your voice heard. And Dion, we have a lot of questions for you. And just like last year, a lot of questions about the defense. So very glad to have you back so we can get your defensive mind on the show. But first off, I just want to get your overall thoughts, Dion. You were able to see the spring game, but this was your first iteration or introduction into the 2023 Trojans. I was really curious what your thoughts were, because you watched intently all last season, and now this is kind of a new version of the Trojans. What did you see on Saturday?
Yeah, I saw exactly what I wanted to see from the team going into week one, coming off really a year where they overachieved. I mean, we're SC every year is a national championship aspiring year, but last year I really believe we were 2, maybe even 3 years ahead of the schedule, and they it was tough for them to really catch up to how far ahead the offense was, speaking from a defensive perspective. But coming out to week one this year, it looked like the guys on defense had a lot more understanding of what Coach Grinch was asking them to do, what the scheme entailed. You didn't see too many bust coverages. It was really only one bust, which we'll get into. Yeah, we missed a great opportunity at a sudden change, opportunity for our defense to get out there in a sudden change situation where the offense put them in a bad situation. They got backed up, had to punt it late, kind of thought we would run the clock out. Then we ended up giving up a score, which really wasn't a manpower thing or a guy just being beat one-on-one. It was an execution thing. Guy was wide open, and just a simple bust, new guys being out there. So I was excited to see minimum bust, minimum missed tackles. They tackled a lot better yesterday than they did all year, in my opinion. Just one-on-one tackling, swarming to the ball. So that was really what I was hoping to see. I didn't really come into the game expecting to see anything special or out of the ordinary from the offense. I mean, we got 13s back, so I expected the offense to look and do what they did, and I was really just hoping to see the defense headed in the right direction to take a step forward to make us see more of a balanced team this year.
Obviously, we'll get into everything you just mentioned, but the biggest thing to me that I thought was pretty wild, just as the game evolved, was how much rotation they had personnel wise. I think I expected some because the depth chart came out earlier in the week and there were a lot of oars at certain positions, but I wasn't expecting how much we saw. And Lincoln Riley actually had a quote after the game. He said, "We got the chance to play a lot of guys tonight, which was a big focus. You saw a lot of lineup changes on both sides, probably as aggressively as we've done in a first game, building up for the future in terms of what the guys had done through fall camp. It was going to be important to play a lot of guys tonight, and we did that." So Lincoln Riley acknowledged that coming into the game, that was part of their game plan to rotate as many guys as possible, get as many guys to have game experience. But from your perspective, Dion, does that impact maybe how quote unquote smoothly the team can play in a game like that? And I guess my point being, like, if you know who the 22 starters are going to be and they play start to finish in the game, it's going to look different than what we saw yesterday, correct?
Correct. So I think the communication between the coach and the player plays a huge part in how the rotation affects your performance as a player. So if I'm going out there expecting to not be rotating, I'm expecting to play every single series. Then once I get rotated, it could throw me off, because I'm the type of player where I need a couple snaps to really get in a groove. Yeah, I may watch film, but a lot of college players don't really know how to study film. So like me particular, when earlier in my career, I like to get out there and see and feel things for myself. And then, the second, third, fourth series, then I can start putting things together. I got an understanding of what the game plan is for the offense and how they're trying to attack me specifically for that game, so then I could make my adjustments and then really catch my footing and go out there and play fast. So maybe if you're that type of player, it can affect you when you're in a rotating position, but I feel like all those guys it didn't affect their performance rotating, because I feel like they all knew they were going to be rotating. They're all new guys in a new scheme for them because they just came in, they're new, and it was the first game. So it's really, as a competitor, yeah, we went through fall camp, but the first game is really still an audition if I'm in a competition battle with somebody else, because, practice, we can replay a play 2-3 times. So, you know what's coming, you've seen it. So when you're in a game, that's really how you can judge how well someone knows the scheme that they're playing and how well they can make in-game adjustments and just, play full speed. So I feel like it didn't impact any of their performance at all, because I feel like they all knew what the situation was coming in. So they were prepared to rotate. So maybe they knew to take the approach to not wait around, not try to learn, really try to get out there and play fast from the jump.
And I'm so curious what USC's coaches gain from seeing, those position battles on tape against a real opponent. Like, if you're the coaches, Dion, how much do you study this film versus maybe the camp film that you saw?
Oh, you study this film much more than the camp film because it's not scripted. Camp is scripted. Like, I know the plays for every section of practice or period of practice before practice. So I really already know what's coming, but obviously they don't tell you right before it happens. So you still gotta, reach back and grab that memorized information they told you in film or whatever, how to react to the play and what you need to do and whatnot. So I feel like having somebody out there on game day, you really understand if they understand what you're telling them to do. Because when you see things that you haven't prepared for, that you haven't seen in a scripted format, to where you can get familiar with how the players look, how it looks, what the formation is they're coming out of, whether they're motioning and whatnot, you really understand if they understand the foundation of your defense. Because at the end of the day, if you rely on the foundations of a defense, you should be able to play in any defense. So
yeah,
that's really, I feel like this really is, you won't see as much rotation going into week 2, potentially depending on how they grade out from the film and whatnot, but you'll definitely see the snaps cut down for other guys and pile up for other guys as they distinguish themselves on Saturdays in the competition battles.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to jump into the defense first, just because I feel like, and of course, we talked about this last year, Twitter and online, message boards and whatnot are always so reactionary after a game. And I just want overall your thoughts, Dion, on USC's defense. They had been, talking about it all offseason, that this just looked different for USC as far as just personnel wise. And the phrase that Lincoln Riley kept using was increased competitive depth. So I'm just curious from your point, it just seemed more, it was just an influx of new players, new body types. Were you able to see that in its impact on Saturday?
Definitely. I mean, you could never understand the impact of, I wouldn't say it was poor performance, because we went 11-3 last year, and so we won a lot of games, but to see only really one guy from our front seven get drafted and really make the NFL league, which was Thule, and there's only one returning starter in the front seven. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, which Solomon, he wasn't really a starter all last year, but he played a lot, so I consider him a returning starter because he affected the game last year. He got a lot of snaps, so the experience and the production was there. So he's really the only guy truly that really was an impact player from our front seven last year that came back. So to see, 6 new faces, you got to understand that was the task that the coaching staff went into the offseason trying to attack. We got to get better up front. We got to get faster, bigger, stronger, and I believe they did that. If you not just, checking the stat sheet or just thinking that every good defense is going to shut people out and it's going to be 42-0 because you're playing a team that, as a fan, you think your team is more superior to. If you watch the film, man, the front seven specifically and the defensive line, they just look different than last year. They were resetting the line of scrimmage, play snap. I mean, the offensive line is 2-3 yards being pushed back. I mean, there's no real run holes like that. Guys are holding their ground. They're being where they're supposed to be. You just had a few, first game jitter issues. I feel like guys shooting gaps like Cobb and the freshman shooting gaps, maybe O-line blocks, not really taking it on the block with 2 hands and butting and shedding the block, which is what we call it, and really holding firm in their gaps. So you may see some runs bust a little bit, but it wasn't anything compared to last year.
Which is encouraging, obviously, for USC fans. And I felt like you could just see the difference physically. Like, Stanley Ta'afu was USC's nose tackle last year, and he was recruited as an inside linebacker originally, whereas you come out opening day and you see the likes of Bear Alexander and Keon Bars. They just look so different. I mean, how much as far as, run defense, just having guys with the body type of Keon and Bear, how much does that change what you can do?
Huge, man. If you turn the tape on Bear, to me, he impressed on Saturday. His rush, his get off, he looked good every snap. It was maybe 1 or 2 snaps where he really didn't push the center or guard 3-4 yards back in the backfield. Like, he looked good. He looked big. He looked strong. He looked like he was confident. You know, when you're confident and you believe that you are who everyone is saying you are, you just play different. Like, so I felt like we got some guys in that don't have that question mark in the back of their head about themselves, you know, like maybe not so they proven to themselves that they're good. They're proving to themselves that they are who they are telling everybody that they are. So
yeah,
it was great to see, especially from him. And my big key, my guy that I thought looked great was Muhammad 10. He looked great coming off the edge. He looked great. Big, fast, he can bend, set the edge, great hustle, great energy on the field. So I think they hit last year on the transfer portal on offense. This year, it may be defense's turn for some guys that come in and really light it up. So it looked great from the aspect of all the transfers, the new guys that came in. Barnes as well. He looked good.
What about Anthony Lucas? What did you think about him, number 6?
He looked good. He looked good to me, and it's always, you know, up in the air when you got a guy who's coming in. He was highly touted as a recruit, and that first experience didn't go as planned, so you never know how they're going to bounce back, how they're going to adjust. And it looks like this new environment, the change of scenery, it really paid dividends for him. Looks like his confidence is there. He looked good out there as well. You know, he's playing fast. He's long. He was able to hold the edge. He was rushing well. Good pursuit. Got in, made some plays, affected the game. So it was a good showing for him as a young guy with a lot of, I wouldn't say pressure, but just a lot of expectations behind him. So it was good for him to have a good showing out there in his first game in the college.
Now, if anyone listened to the off-season podcast, I just had to toot my horn a little bit because I was like, watch out for Jamil Muhammad, because Dion, do you know where Jamil transferred from?
I do not.
Georgia State.
Yeah. And that was the guy I was wondering. I was like, Georgia State.
I think everyone was.
I wonder how that's going to play out. Yeah. I don't know how he was at Georgia State. He looks like a SEC guy. Like,
he was a quarterback. I'm so glad we have a video podcast now.
What?
Yeah, he was a quarterback in college. He was a quarterback in college.
What?
I'm so glad that other people can see your facial expressions now, Dion.
What?
Yeah, he was a quarterback, which is hilarious because he said when he first transferred to USC, the first person he got along with was Caleb Williams, because he was like, they were going over Lincoln Riley's offense, but he was a Georgia State quarterback, transferred to the other side of the ball or switched to the other side of the ball. And then, and Lincoln Riley was asked, you know, how did you find someone from Georgia State out of the transfer portal? And he said that other coaches that he's friends with, like in the league, obviously, kind of was like, hey, you should look at this guy at Georgia State. So apparently the film spoke for itself, and apparently they saw things that they could help coach him with. So one of those things where I think everyone was like, how is this going to pan out? And he did pretty well, I will say, on Saturday.
Yeah, he definitely did. Like, I didn't even know he was the same guy. I didn't even know that was a Georgia State guy, because obviously you hear the transfer. I don't know what he looks like and whatnot. It's just words on a piece of paper, but he ain't look like a Georgia State guy. So that blows my mind that's where he transferred from. We got lucky on that one for sure.
Yeah. Again, I gotta say, so happy that we are on video, because the facial expressions say it all. I was just curious too, Dion, for your thoughts on it. Seemed to me that USC's front did less stunting, or at least less movement up front. Is that something from your opinion that is based on the new bodies USC got, or is that Alex Grinch evolving what he does?
I think that it may be a little bit of both, but I think it's more so of just the new personnel, that he doesn't have to incorporate that movement to try and give his guys a little advantage against the offensive line, to get them, you know, on a tilt, moving so they can really reset the line of scrimmage, which really that's what the stunting was. He just trying to reset the line of scrimmage. Reset the line of scrimmage is just premeditated. So for these guys, they're a lot bigger, a lot stronger, and just one-on-one wing guys across the board. And I feel like Grinch is just allowing them to put their hand in the dirt and just go, really. And I feel like that was a big difference from the front. Last year, they never stopped moving. It was always moving pre-snap, trying to get the guys on the tilt, really, because we only really had one guy that could win, which was Thule. Yeah. So it looks like we got a lot more depth, a lot more talent, a lot more just, I don't want to say NFL talent, but just NFL prototype guys. Like, to where we can play more of a professional style defense. It doesn't have to be as gimmicky as it was last year.
And to your point, Lincoln Riley has been pretty candid because he was asked earlier this week, compared to last year, what differences do you see or do you experience to this year? And he said, when I look out on the field, I see much more good players and much less bad players. And I was like, wow, the man didn't hold back in that answer.
Sometimes you got to be blunt, especially in this profession. It's all about what have you done for me now. And as a former player, you can appreciate the honesty and just being up front, because it's a lot of emotion and a lot of, it's dreams and aspirations that these kids are weighing, that's weighing on these kids as they're going through this process. So the more that they know up front and they're not guessing, the more comfortable they can be with a decision where a guy playing in front of them. Like, hey, if the coach told me 2 weeks ago, this guy, hey, if you don't step it up, this guy's gonna take your spot, and I don't step it up, and he take my spot. What can I say? Like, coach was honest. He was up front. He told me how they were approaching the situation, and I didn't do what I needed to do to separate myself. So that approach, I feel like, allows him to say things where it may come off as, wow, I can't believe he would say that, but you don't want any gray area, man. These guys, especially in this transfer portal era, like, that's how you can lose guys. You telling them one thing, you trying to recruit them, and you're not being honest with them, not really treating them like adults, which is how you have to treat these kids now. You can't really treat them like, young kid. You got to treat them like professional athletes and handle it accordingly. So I feel like he's taking that approach, and that's giving him the leeway to really get the most buy-in out of all the guys.
That's a good point. Now, a key to the game that Cody and I had established was containing Cordero, San Jose State's quarterback. And first off, I'll just ask you, Dion, how do you think USC fared in that front?
I feel like that was the biggest reason why San Jose State got any movement on offense at all. It was really just the quarterback runs, whether they had the breakdown on third and 22, I believe. It was another long second down. He picked up a nice run on, and it wasn't quarterback playing runs. It's just dropping back, backyard football. So it's tough when those type of plays happen, but you really just gotta for the front seven, they gotta hone in on their rush lanes. The ends got to be bookends, got to keep them contained inside, because on a lot of those situations, he's running because Bear is whooping his guy. Bear is whooping his guy, so that's why he's dropping. He's bailing to the outside, but our ends they're just getting too caught up on the one-on-one game. You gotta keep the foundation of the defense intact. Where I'm trying to win, but I can't win at the sacrifice of the foundation of the defense. Yeah, so just small things. It wasn't like, hey, guy was getting blocked, he just got blocked, and the guy ran around him. It wasn't that type of deal. So he got out the pocket and whatnot, but it's definitely fixable, and we will need to fix that because a lot of the quarterbacks we playing are mobile, and so we'll have to get that taken care of for sure.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I feel like back in the day, quote unquote, I say that like I'm some old head, but back in the day, I feel like you could say that mobile quarterbacks were kind of the not the norm, and now they are. So you can't really write off this game as, oh, well, it's a mobile quarterback. They'll face him maybe once or twice the rest of the season. Is this one of those cases where it's the first game? You take it with a grain of salt, or do you get worried about how they were able to defend a mobile quarterback? Because I talked to Mason Cobb after the game, and he was like, we go against Caleb Williams every day in practice. We have no excuses. So, and of course you want to hear that from your captain, but I was just curious, all things together in the context of where we are in the season, how do you approach, how they did against a mobile quarterback?
You definitely use this as an opportunity to teach guys and learn and improve, because this is not, like you said, this is not like just an outlier type of opponent we're going to play. I mean, majority of the quarterbacks we're going to play this year are mobile. So this is definitely something we're going to mobile to some extent. Maybe not as mobile as him because he was a pretty good athlete, but to some extent, they can extend plays. They'll get out, they'll run. So it's something that we have to hone in on, and I think the coaches will take this game and use it as teach tape because it was just guys, keeping the integrity of their rush lanes and things like it's minor things. So it's the perfect film to use as teach tape because it's not like guys are out there just looking bad, like getting beat. So it's not like a tape when you watch guys are kind of getting beat down on and you trying to build them up at the same time, but it's just not good film. It's a difference as a former player, like when you're getting you're getting teach tape off of something that is coachable, whereas it's something they're trying to coach that's really just a personnel issue. So this is a coachable thing, so it's great teach tape, and hopefully it's something that we're able to get better at, to have a better output in that aspect moving forward.
Now, Dion, I'm curious about your thoughts on the entire rotation for inside linebacker, but specifically Tackett Curtis, considering that USC's coaches were so high on him as a true freshman, obviously so, and since they started him. He's the first true freshman to start at that position in a season opener since Cam Smith did it in 2015. Now, they knew coming into it, and Brian Noden had kind of talked about it, that, there's obviously going to be freshman mistakes, but he's a ball hawk, but sometimes he just has to find the ball first. So I was just curious if you did see freshman mistakes and just how you would evaluate overall what Tackett Curtis did on Saturday.
I think Tackett played well for his first showing in the Coliseum. For really a true freshman debut, you just want to see as little bust in the scheme as possible. And from my eyes, watching the game and really paying attention to him and Cobb, I didn't see too many mental errors. It was really it was apparent that he was really thinking about his run responsibility, because he would take steps forward, like what we call re-steps at the linebacker position, versus a non-play action, like just straight pass drop. So that's when he's really honed in on what his responsibility is in the run game, and where that kind of got him caught up in I believe maybe in 2, maybe even 3 crossing routes that came open, because he was just taking too many steps in his re-steps, and then not locating his guy and locating his nearest defender to get out of each other's way and run into each other and popping the guy open. So that was really the only issues I saw. Energy and see ball, get ball. He definitely seems like that type of player, like a shot out of a cannon. Really just pin your ears back, go and get it, find the ball, see ball, find ball, get ball. And you gotta love those type of players. So it was a good showing for him. I can see why he was out there physically. He looks ready to play. Like, he doesn't look like a guy that just came from high school. He had some size on him. He didn't look like, he needs a year or 2 more to get in the weight room to really be ready to show what he can do. So I can see why they threw him out there. And I think he had a good showing, and he can build from his performance. And eventually, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line, start to hone in on scheme and how guys are attacking him, so he can play even faster and not be thinking out there as much.
Mm-hmm. Now, last year, something you said a lot, especially when we got deeper into the games, was that tackling and tackling well is a mentality. Like, you're going to have to you have to commit to it. And Tackett Curtis seems like one of those guys who kind of embodies what you were preaching all last year.
Definitely. Just I want to. I want to get the guy down. You're not going to get past me. And I felt like really every 11 that they put out there on defense, I feel like they brought that mindset every snap.
Okay.
You didn't really see too many guys missing one-on-one tackle. Like last year, our last game of the season last year, we set a record in missed tackles. So just based off of what we saw last from this defense, it was, for me, it was night and day from the tackling aspect. Guys, they put their pads on, they was going down, especially from the linebacker position. Cobb, he didn't miss many. He maybe missed 1, maybe 2, if you're being strict on the grading. But he put his pads on guys, they were going down.
it was great to see, definitely. So that was exciting to see that part of their game really take that next step up. Because I mean, you can't be a good defense if you can't tackle.
For sure. Now, like I mentioned, they had rotation at inside linebacker. First up, it was Mason Cobb and Tackett Curtis together. And then it was Mason Cobb and Eric Gentry together. And that's the return of Eric Gentry, the first time we've seen him publicly since the last time he played in 2022. I was just curious, what was your thoughts? Like, did a certain pairing of inside linebackers stand out to you at all? Did a certain inside linebacker stand out to you? Like, what were your thoughts on what you saw from that position as they rotated and kind of as it evolved?
I can see why they pair Curtis and Cobb together, with Cobb having the experience and the production behind that experience to get a young gun out there who kind of have the same mindset as Cobb, see ball, get ball type attitude, whereas, Gentry is more of an athlete, so you can drop him into coverage and things like that. So it's really, I felt like the pairings is more fitting, just depending on the situation. Like it could be Gentry could be a third down linebacker for this year. Like third downs come out, he's that exotic player, kind of like how Jamie Collins was for the New England Patriots. That looks like what they're trying to use him like, rather than just using him as a traditional, just off the ball linebacker, which what they were trying to get him to do last year. So I think the pairing of Curtis and Cobb maybe works best, just because they're your best bet when it comes to the run game. I mean, they're the most physically gifted to get off blocks and get to the ball and get guys down. But if you're playing more of a spread out system, really throw the ball 50, 60 times in that game, I could see Gentry getting more of a fair share of the snaps, just because he is more of a threat in the passing game, whether it's they're lining them up and what him and the nickel, they were like mugging the A gaps, is what we call it, where they line up in A gap like they're gonna blitz, so the O line doesn't know if they're on the zone or on the drive. And I feel like he, with his length and just his ability coming into college as kind of like a DN, his ability to get after the passer and his athletic ability to drop in coverage, I feel like it gives the scheme more freedom to be exotic. So him being out there, I feel like you can just expect things not to just be real like cut and paste. It's going to be more exotic, a lot more what we call disguising, him showing something and belling out, or maybe he is coming adding on, things like that. So I like the rotations they had. They was really trying to get Trickett a lot of snaps. He played, in my opinion, the most out of the three linebackers. I didn't really see Shane Lee play, which was a surprise.
Yeah, he was hurt in camp. But he's someone who is even still didn't get as many reps when he did come back and practice this week. So curious what they're going to do with Shane Lee going forward, what their game plan is with him.
Very curious, because I can't see him going out there playing over Cobb. Cobb showed well, and obviously he has a lot of praise and a lot of respect in the locker room and from the coaching staff. So that'll be interesting in itself. But I like the rotations they had and the pairings. All the pairings seemed to work, whether it was Gentry and Trickett out there, or it was Cobb and Trickett, or
Tackett. Trickett sounds cool, but Tackett.
Oh, yeah, Tackett. Yeah.
Trickett is
Curtis.
Cool though.
I'm gonna just call him Curtis.
It's a new year. You'll get it.
Definitely. And last name, I mean, it's so much easier.
That's fair.
Jersey, but we don't got on that. But
yeah.
I like the Curtis and Cobb out there together. I like Gentry and Curtis. I like Gentry and Cobb. They all kind of complement each other well enough to where it works whatever pair they put out there. The combination between them three out there, two of them three out there, it seems to work. So they look like they got a good thing going at the linebacker position.
Now, it's not like, this is not I'm going to say scientific, even though it's not science, but like, from my opinion, and granted, I don't know everyone's responsibilities, but it seemed like there was just a little bit more juice when Eric Gentry came out on the defense. Is that something where, as a coaching staff or even as a player, that takes priority sometimes? Like, okay, this guy can kind of fire up the defense and make some big time plays when we need it. Like, does that impact playing time at all? And did you see that at all, or is that just me kind of getting caught up in game day feels?
I can see where people may feel like they saw he brought a different energy and just a different feel to the defense. But when you're rotating, you're coming in fresh. So for
Okay.
him, I can see how he was taking the field with something to prove. Obviously, he started last year. He's not starting this year. So the whole energy and attitude he approached the game with this year, I don't feel like he approached any week last year the same. So you could feel his presence without him really making plays. So that's definitely will affect play time. If you got a guy, there's guys that are playmakers and there's guys that are not. It's just guys that the ball finds, and it is what it is. And when you need a play, you got to have them out there. So everybody understands it. So it's not like, Gentry didn't come from making a ton of plays last year. So,
Yeah.
He is a player. If you need a play, he's on the list. You expecting one of the players that can make that play. So if the game's on the line, I can see 18 being out there because he's made plays to save games for that coaching staff. So I definitely think his big playability will affect his snap count in a positive way.
Now, I'm going to bring up a question from our question section here for the defense. It's from Michael, who said, and you mentioned it, Dion, and that's why I'm bringing it up. He said, San Jose State converted on a 3rd and 22. Can you break down that defensive play and what USC did wrong and how to correct the play or scheme?
This is simply just rush lane integrity by the defensive line because we're playing man-to-man behind it. And, yeah, we're not playing zero, meaning that there is a one high safety, but he's 20 yards deep and he has to stay the deepest guy to where he can help out with nothing getting over the top of him. So all the DBs' backs are turned. So in order to prevent something like what happening, you got to have rush integrity by the D-line. They really are contained. You're not really rushing to get a sack there. You're just rushing to put pressure on the quarterback, but keep him contained, keep him bottled up. And we didn't do that, which is why you saw him be able to run him for almost 30 yards without being touched. All the DBs got their backs turned to him in man-to-man situation, and they're chasing their guy. And they're caught in a pickle because if you see the quarterback scrambling, you can't just run and go get him because then you can dump it off to your guy like you're covering somebody. So the D-line really are the only free guys. Everybody else has a man, so they – you got to pick. If I go try and get the quarterback and throw it to my guy, then that's pretty much touchdown because everybody else is covering somebody. So it was just a situation where we didn't keep the quarterback contained, and he got out the pocket in a man-to-man situation, and just bad luck, really.
Is that where, and forgive me if this is an ignorant question, but is that where not playing man-to-man would maybe come in handy?
Oh, for sure. Like, I'm not one to call out like defense coordinators because calling the defense is very challenging. There's a lot that goes into it. But 3rd and 22, I would put that on the coach because we should never run man in 3rd and 22 unless we're bringing 6 guys. It's 0, and we're there's no way the quarterback doesn't have to get the ball out quick. So to put the guys in a position like that, the coach definitely has to take a little fall in that because guys in a bad position and they weren't able to bail him out. So I think it goes hand in hand with the players and the coaches in that situation. But the players definitely could have bailed the coach out with having rush lane integrity and just keeping the quarterback bottled up because the DBs won. So they won in the back end, which is why you saw the quarterback running. So it got to go hand in hand. Every call can be a good call if played correctly. So, you can say, we should have been in his zone whenever keeping guys' eyes on the quarterback, things like that. But, hey, every play, like I said, that is called, it can be effective if ran correctly.
As far as the defensive backs, what did you see overall from the back end of things for USC?
It's interesting because last year this was our strength. And this year I think it's reversed. I think front 7 is our strength, and the back 4 is where we're going to have to build and get better in order to get to the places that this team has aspirations to reach. So we got a lot of experience at safety, but not much at corner. Yeah, Wright was out there quite often last year, but Makai was the guy. He took the challenge of guarding the number 1 guy, and he was really the guy, and we zoned away from him type deal. So Blackman was on the island and we was helping overwrite or, zoning towards his way. So it's definitely a challenge now trying to find who's that guy, who's going to be that guy that can lock down one side of the field so you can really, scheme the other side and not have to worry about covering the whole entire field when you're calling the game from the defense coordinator perspective. So I like, Damani had a good game. Yeah, he had some, because he really still like a true freshman. He barely played last year, coming off injury. He was a super recruit coming out, had an injury. That's a confidence shaker because he's a speed guy, tore up his knee. So, getting all that confidence in himself back. And obviously he was a top guy, 5-star, this and that. So it was good to see him get out there, get challenged, make some plays, just really just get reps under his belt so he can get confident and get back to that player that he was coming out of high school where he felt like he was the best guy on the field at all times. So once he gets that confidence back, I think they may have found their guy in Domani because he has the physical physique. He looks like an NFL corner. He can move like an NFL corner. So I think that he can be that guy that Blackman was for our defense last year. And obviously, the back end with 7 and 4, and even Shaw back there in the mix. They're all studs. They got the experience, the production, and the back it up. Really got any issues in the back end, and then just Wright, who they seen was that guy this year. I didn't see Wright rotate as much as I saw Domani rotate with. I forget 17's name, but the transfer from Arizona. I feel like him and Domani really rotated more so than Wright on the other side, but I feel like those guys on those islands, they keep taking the coaching, and getting better week by week. I think the back end could become a strength.
I was surprised that we saw 17 Christian Roland Wallace as much as we did at corner, because that's something where I know that they were trying to see if he would work at nickel. But does that just speak to in game they realized, hey, we should probably get Christian Roland Wallace some more reps at corner based on how both cornerbacks are playing? And I know you're not in the meetings, Dion, so you don't have a full answer here, but how did you see the rotation evolve as the game progressed with USC's corners?
It looked like because really a lot of the plays that we given up in the passing game, it came on the island. So as the game progressed, it seemed like the coaches realized we need to get some depth on the outside. So they got Wallace out there more and more as the game went on, and he played well. And obviously he has experience at Arizona. He was a starter there.
Yeah.
Logged a ton of snaps, productive. So it's good to get that experience out there, a guy that's confident, and you can get the younger guys back on the sideline and try and coach them up so when they get back out there, they're not making that same mistake or trying to learn while they're playing, like trying to be coached as they're out there, being yelled at from the sideline. Like, no player likes that. So it's good that they're confident enough in Wallace to get them out there to, if they need to say something to Jackson or say something to Wright, they can pull him to the sideline and not be worried, we got to get him out there the next snap. Give Wallace a series or two. Like, he's a stand-up guy out there on the island. So that was exciting to see, especially, another portal guy you love. It sounds funny because, it used to be a true freshman thing. You love to see true freshmen. That's a recruiting thing. But, hey, you love to see the portal guys produce and look good because, that portal is important now, almost like free agency. So it's good to see that they hit again in the portal, it seems like.
And it's one of those things where I think, Christian Roland Wallace got hurt on the first day of spring camp and missed the entirety of spring camp. And I feel like if he had actually had that time to get in and get reps under Alex Grinch in the spring and build on that, and then coming into the fall, I feel like he probably would have been named a starter coming in.
Oh, I definitely do. After seeing, majority of the transfers that came in and was able to learn the system and put the time on the practice field, they got their name called on game day. So I don't see if it would have been any different for him. Just Oz wasn't in his favor, with the injuries and whatnot. But I can definitely see his role getting bigger and bigger as the season goes on. He has the physical physique, sort of kind of like Domani, not the exact same build, but he looks like, a big-time college corner out there. So I'm excited to see his role increase. We get another productive, confident guy out there on the edge.
Now, I feel like I could ask you so many more questions about USC's defense, but we have a ton of questions, so I'll save it for the question portion of the show. I'm going to transition us now into USC's offense, and I think I just have to start it by talking about Zachariah Branch, which is a guy who the coach's eyes just lit up. They couldn't help but smile when they talked about Zachariah Branch, and I think all Trojan fans realized why that was happening all offseason. On Saturday, he had 231 all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns, in his rookie debut. Just, Dion, what was going through your mind watching a guy like him play the way he did?
Man, Branch is different, and I had the privilege of, I played with Xavier Grimble, who went to Gorman, who's like the original Gorman recruit to come to SC, and then now further down the line, Branch is an over Gomer guy. So I saw Branch in high school, and I told, hey, he looked a little different. I know y'all done had some guys come out of Gorman, but he looked like he moving at a different speed than everybody else. And then I wasn't surprised at all. I was really just waiting, like, are they going to put him out there? Is he going to get an opportunity? And then once I saw it first play, they got the ball. I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to do something special. Like, then they put him back there, return, punt, and kick. So I wasn't surprised that he was able to make a play. He's really a prime time player. Just a 3-year guy, like top pick. Like, he's on the path to greatness, and anyone who has eyes can see it. So I wasn't surprised at all. I'm just praying that he's able to have a healthy career and he's going to do some special things.
So Scout Dion was correct, is what you're saying. You were in early about Zachariah Branch.
Oh yeah, definitely. I knew he was going to be a guy. He was a guy that it wasn't like he went to a school that was in a small town. And sometimes you get guys that are highly rated, but they didn't really have the competition to really test their skills. Like,
sure,
plays the national schedule. So he's been out there against other Power 5 guys, and he made them all look silly in high school. So I wasn't surprised. And when he came on the big stage on Saturdays, he was able to bring that same, flair to the game, where it's really like any moment he touched the ball, it's like he's on the edge of your seat. You don't know what people do. He really is speed than everybody else out there.
It was so funny because once he was able, you could tell he was like almost gonna break it, and then he finally did. And then there was, I think, another special teams play where he was close to breaking it, and you could feel just the rabid screams in the Coliseum because the fans just wanted it so badly. And granted, he was tackled, but it reminded me that it's been a while since we've seen, a player so exciting where fans are wishing and hoping for that next big play. And so it was just really cool to see him make a electric, fabulous debut that he did. And there were some, I in camp called him like kind of like a Dory Jackson, but some people dropped the RB word, Reggie Bush. And I don't know, Dion, if you want to handle that comparison. Do you feel like he's anywhere in that stratosphere?
I think he's much more like Reggie than Dory was. Like Reggie, he was an offensive guy. Like, he was an explosive offensive guy. Dory was more so just a really good athlete, so he could play offense, but he's not an offensive guy. Like, Zach is an offensive start, like 0 to 60 in half a second. Like, he's different. I think if he's able to stay healthy and continue to get opportunities in the game to show what he can do, I mean, this is a guy that he can do some special things, man. His ability, and he's way bigger than I thought.
Really?
He's way bigger than I thought. Like, I thought he was like more on the lines of like the Anthony Thomas back from my day, like real skinny, real small, slight. But he looked like a legit, like he was like a junior. Like, he looked like he I was surprised. So, like, when I saw him take his first snap, I'm like, oh yeah, college football in trouble. I'm in the group chat. Texting X like, oh yeah, Branch is different. Like, he's gonna set the college football world on fire, and I just can't wait to watch.
Now, can you explain what these times mean for, I guess, the layman non-football or track people? Dion, he was asked for his fastest running time and his 40 time into the post-game press conference, and he said his fastest 40 time was a 4.38 at the Under Armour camp. Can you put that into perspective how fast that is?
We talking like this one thing at an Under Armour camp is not a handheld 40, it's electric, just like it would be at the combine. So all them combine guys you get hyped about seeing 43s. Yeah, this guy, he was doing that at 16, before he even really could smell the weight. So like just imagine after really putting in some work on a collegiate level, how fast and how much stronger he's gonna be in a year or two. So like that's just nuts that he ain't say like, oh, my high school coach turned me at a 4.38. Like, nah, he ran that official Under Armour camp, which I know how those camps are ran. So that's an official time. You can take it to the bank, give it to an NFL scout. Like he ran that, it's official. So
wow,
it's a fast kid.
That's insane. And the crazy part, he's 18, and Jamil Muhammad spoke after the game, and Jamil Muhammad was like, he doesn't even know what he did tonight. He was like, I know what he did, but he doesn't know what he did. He's probably playing video games right now. So it's just
he has no clue. He has no clue how special he really is already and what his potential could be, just because it's normal to him. He's been doing this since he was a young kid playing popcorn. He's probably been running around guys like that since he was 7, 8. So like, I don't think he really can grasp the magnitude of his impact on the game. What his presence brings to him being on the field. Like he's gonna be the guy circled on every game plan moving forward. Like everybody recruiting him. So everybody is waiting to see. I'm sure all the other coaches is waiting to see, like, oh, let's see how you really gonna do. Now they got him circled. Okay, you got 13 starting next to 13, circle number 1. He almost got a star next to his name, but right now we just gonna circle. He definitely is one that every defense coordinator is gonna have a plan for. I don't know how well that plan's gonna go because you can't really scheme speed like type of speed he got. He ain't got build up speed. He just stop start. Like Reggie. Hey, it's different. I look at him more as a Percy Harvin because I couldn't see Reggie like playing in the slot and playing running back. Like he was more of a running back that could catch. But Branch, I could see him more like a Percy Harvin, zone sweeps, really playing slot, could actually play running back if they needed him to type deal. So I think he is on the Percy Harvin path.
Interesting. What did you think of his celebration? Did you see his touchdown celebration?
His Ronaldo. I see he either is a big soccer fan, which my wife plays soccer at SC, so that's how I know, or he's a FIFA guy. So I'm hoping
he clarified it. It's FIFA.
Yes. I'm sure he's young. I'm sure he's not really watching Ronaldo right now. So I figured he was a FIFA guy. I was hoping he was a soccer guy.
He said he got into FIFA and he was just kind of button mashing the celebration, and he was like that was pretty cool, and he was like, I filed that away and saved that for 2 months. So he was like, I was planning that. So yeah.
Oh, he couldn't wait. He was sitting on that. So I'm glad he got to bring it out.
Me too. It's crazy too because he came right towards me where I was standing in the end zone, so I got a great shot of him celebrating. It was so fun to watch it, but it's so cool to see you guys get their first touchdown like that. This is Editing Keely from the future, and I'm just interrupting the podcast to give a disclaimer and an apology that Dion's audio started to have technical difficulties around this mark of the podcast. If you hadn't noticed already, we had weird static just come into his audio, and we don't know why. The technology gods, the podcasting gods were not on our side for this episode. We had to troubleshoot and fix so many issues that I'm just glad we have some type of episode to give you guys for this week. So for some reason, his audio did come back normally at the end of the podcast. So we were able to fit in a couple of questions that were normal in the rest of the episode, and then we wrapped up the show. So apologies that basically the question portion of the episode got scrapped. Again, it was such a weird audio episode, and it was just not a good day for technology, but we have an episode and we will make sure that everything gets fixed going forward. So that's just a note from future Keely, Editing Keely, but we'll get back to the podcast to finish it out. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Dion, because we got a question from John who said, Grinch called it inverted too deep on San Jose State's last touchdown before half. Wrong call at that place on the field or bad execution. And I'm assuming by what you mentioned, it's bad execution.
definitely bad execution. I wouldn't say it was a wrong call at all. I mean, they're really on the fringe. They weren't in the red zone yet, kind of like that in between the 40 and the 20-yard line. We call that the fringe zone. So cover 2 is a good call to make right there. Just, better execution, and that explosive play wouldn't happen either.
Alex said last year the defense's main weaknesses were a lack of production on the line and its halo effects. This game looked more like issues with scheme design and missed assignments. To what degree do you think that is correctable? And do you agree with this first? I'm going to say that first, Dion.
I don't agree. I don't think that the scheme put anybody out of position or put them in just a position to where they were not able to put their best foot forward. I don't see Grinch calling anything last night that really put any player in a negative position. So I wouldn't say it was schematical at all.
Rigo said, I saw a lot of big holes in the defense and the inability to stop a mobile quarterback, especially in the first half. Do you think that's just first game jitters, or does Dion feel like there are some legitimate concerns for the season moving forward? And we kind of already addressed this, Dion, but I'm just curious from your perspective. Obviously you played it, and like I always try to have the caveat as, on defense, it's so reactionary and people have assignments, and we can't necessarily know whose assignment was what, especially if we're not like, we haven't played in this scheme. So I'm just curious what you saw from USC's defense compared to what maybe fans interpreted. Like, where is the disconnect having? Because you seem to be more optimistic and they seem to be more pessimistic.
Yeah, because I kind of have this, I'm clued in a little bit more, maybe like what they're being told in the meeting rooms, just from experience and the positions that they're being put in and the plays that were ran against them. I may, just from experience, have a more understanding of what potentially they were supposed to do in that moment. But what was the question again?
Sorry. No, it was a long question. It was basically asking, like, why did it probably not seem as great of a defensive performance?
Got it.
To fans, maybe. And not saying that it was an amazing defensive performance, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the opponent has some play in that, because if we win that game versus Washington or Oregon, I mean, people were gone cold, going crazy. Yeah. Oh, what a performance, defense, turn the page. Oh my gosh, national championship, this and that. So seeing San José State on the schedule and just, thinking, how Pete Carroll and them used to do it, it's going to be 55-0 or 42-7.
Sure.
Like, that day and age of football is over. Like, offense is way too explosive. Like, in San José State was no slouch. Like, they weren't a Division I AA team or, just some random team. Like, they play against legit competition. They got Oregon State next week. You know what I mean? Their
quarterback's a 6-year starter.
Experience out the yin yang, man. He did throw a lot of passes. He put up a lot of points. And so it was really a testament to how far the defense came, because it didn't look like it. People had the impression that we should have smothered them more. It didn't look like they were on a level playing field with us, whereas like almost every offense looked like they were on a level playing field with our defense last year, so to speak. Like, it never really seemed like we were just could suffocate teams. So you just got to have a understanding that some things happen, and it's not just about them happening, but it's how they happen and why they happen. And me having an understanding that it wasn't guys just not being able to do it. It was more like coachable things, like just keeping your rush lane integrity, keeping the quarterback contained when we don't have anyone spying the quarterback or any zone droppers behind you type deal. Like, hey, you're in cover 2, make sure you can play the number 1 receiver and the number 2 receiver. Like, these are all coachable things. It wasn't like guys were just getting ran by or getting just mauled over. They couldn't hold their ground. So all the things that went wrong are coachable and fixable. So that's why I have more of a half glass full than half glass empty outlook on the defense performance.
That makes sense. Thank you for interpreting my long and complicated question. That's what I was going for.
No problem.
That's some year 2 podcasting. We got that chemistry. You're translating my Keely thoughts. We have one final question, and it comes from Will. He said, who do you think should start at linebacker, Eric Gentry or Tackett Curtis?
I think Curtis should. Well, I think it's not just a who should start. It's all about winning the game, and it's a week to week thing. You're playing a different offensive scheme every week, and just different personnel. So you really need to know your personnel, know who does what the best, and what weaknesses both of those two players have, and who's going to give you the best opportunity to, be the most effective week in and week out. I don't think it's like oh, you're better than him type deal. I don't think we're in a situation like that. I think it's more like a schematic. All right, we're doing more dropping, more covering this week, so maybe we got Gentry out there more than Curtis, or we're playing against a run heavy team. We got Curtis out there to fill the gaps. He's more sturdy, more built to play the run, blitz, and things like that. So I think it's more of a scheme thing rather than just hey, he's better than you, put the better guy out there.
Interesting. Okay. And that's obviously something we'll see evolve as the season progresses, right?
Okay. Definitely, to where it could become where he's playing better than you type deal, where you want Gentry out there every play, no matter if it's run, pass, goal line, don't matter, or vice versa. It could be Curtis. So week one, everybody's still building. We're all still learning how everybody's gonna what they look like, what trajectory they're on this year. So we'll see how it plays out.
I will say, though, it's fascinating because for coaches to be confident to play a true freshman at that position, they must think his ceiling is pretty high.
Pretty high. And like I said, linebacker is second to me and the biggest jump from, high school to college. Like, you got to be physically ready. And for another tip to the cap to the coaches, for them to find guys that not only can have the ability to play, but like physically are mature and ready to go out there right now to help them, so they could, build this roster into, elite championship win now roster, which is what college football is right now. So that's just really, it's a tip of the cap to Curtis, putting the work in for him to come in looking like, a second, third year college player when it was really his first game ever in college. So that's and to the training staff, I don't know what he came in looking like before in the summer. So, hey, maybe he came in and they training staff is really putting in work, because they look like they just look more like closer to the SC of old than what we looked like last year. Just take away the plays being made and things like this. Hey, walk on the field. Okay, they look more so like a SC team than we did last year.
Which, and that's something that Lincoln Riley had talked about a lot, in the sense that, both for nutrition and strength and conditioning, those are two areas where the fruits of your labor kind of have to take a year to develop. And so it speaks to what you're saying, Dion, is like now we're starting to see, the changes that Lincoln Riley made actually come into effect. So again, like I said, it'll only get better as it continues, which is funny that I didn't even say that, because one of their mottos this year is the longer it goes, the better we get. But, it kind of speaks to that,
Yeah,
so.
Definitely.
Look at me. Sorry, I was going to say, I'm speaking the company line, but sorry, continue, Dion.
Yeah, you've definitely been around the staff and the guys a lot, so I can see that rubbing off on you. But that's definitely that's a great mantra to have, because obviously you need to get stronger and better as the game goes on, as the season progresses. You got to be playing your best when it matters the most, which is at the end, whether it's at the end of the game or the end of the season. So it's good that they have that mindset and that approach to the game this year, and hopefully it holds true. And as the season goes on, they get better in whatever weaknesses they have. And like I said, we know 13 gonna be 13. And obviously we seen what one can do. Branch is special, so I'm looking forward to see what he can do. I'm still trying to see. I saw what Singer did at Arizona. I'm trying to see how he's gonna fit in with the offense, and is he gonna bring us that Addison kind of feel where Addison always kind of felt like we had a prolific guy out there on the outside, to where if ball came his way, it just always seemed like something good was going to happen type deal. So just trying to figure out who's going to be that guy on the outside, whereas Branch is more, gimmick, explosive guy, maybe hit a home run, things are sputtering and he just explodes and does something crazy type deal. So it's exciting. They have a lot to build on, a lot of meat left on the bone from a fan's perspective. So it's exciting to see them come out with a decisive victory, and it not be their best effort I guess. So it's exciting, definitely.
I was about to ask you for final thoughts, Dion, but that was pretty much that was a good wrap up right there by you. I guess my final question for you before we wrap it up is week 2. What will you be looking for when it comes to USC versus Nevada?
Week 2, I'm gonna look for. I don't know what Nevada's quarterback is like, but if he's mobile, I'm gonna look to see if our defense can keep him contained. I'm gonna look to see excellent open field tackling in week 2, and as long as from a defense perspective, they come out, they contain the quarterback, and they tackle well, I expect the scoring to go down from the opposing offense, and obviously, I just want to see Caleb go out there and do what he do, and everybody walk off the field healthy. That's really my thing about the offense. Like, I know they're gonna go out there and put up points. It's just every week, just everybody come back off. Everybody in the locker room healthy on their own power. That's all it is with the offense, week in and week out. Because you can't hide it. We got an explosive offense. Lincoln Riley is a magician on that side of the ball. So I have no concerns or anything. I expect greatness, and that's what they've been producing. So there's no reason for any of us to expect anything less. So hopefully, things keep progressing, and hopefully we're in for a even more special season this year than we were last year. So just buckle up, Trojan fans.
It's going to be exciting for sure. And excited to have you back, Dion. Love hearing your analysis after every game. So if you have questions for Dion, if you're sitting there on Saturday and you're like, I have this defensive question, make sure you tweet at either Dion, me, or VictoryPod USC. We love hearing from you guys, and we love answering your questions. But that's going to wrap it up. Game 1 in the books for USC. That's Dion. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.